Great. Now it's time to have Larry come up and introduce our program for the day.
Hi, as most of you remember, a couple of years ago we had a program on the Capitol Lake project, and then of course we don't hear much about it anymore, but today we're going to get an update on the Capitol Lake restoration project, and we're going to hear from Bob Wubbena. I'm going to give you a little background on Bob, even though a lot of you already know him. He's the co-chair of Capitol Lake Improvement and Protections Association. He's got 45 years experience as an environmental engineer and president of consulting company Economic and Engineering Services Incorporated. He's licensed as a professional engineer in 5 states, project principal for the Department of Ecology and 4 local government organizations. That includes cities, counties, PUDs, and water districts. He helps develop the state guidelines on watershed management back in the 1990s. His family owns Fiddlehead Marina since 1981. He helped fund Percival Landing Boardwalk and completed 2 major dredging projects to develop Olympia waterfront in the early 1980s. He's doing water projects now in 6 third world countries for Rotary International. So let's hear from Bob about the Capitol Lake project, see what's going on.
Thank you, Larry, and I have to figure this out.
Hit the arrow keys at the bottom, Bob.
Got it. Okay. First of all, one of the questions that I was asked when I gave my presentation a year and a half or 2 years ago, and then talked with Greg Cuyo and others and setting it up, they say, well, you know, isn't that really a downtown Olympia issue, the Capitol Lake issue? You know, it is a countywide issue, but why would the Olympia or Lacey Rotary be interested in it? Why would the community of Lacey be interested in it? And as the title infers here, you know, our group, CLIPA, has been at this process for about 7 years. Dennis Curry is a co-chair with me. Joseph Bolio is on our board, and so forth. And for 7 years, we've been peeling the onion, evaluating the reports from the state, and putting forth what we believe, a group of about 20 of us professionals, retired professionals. That's what my resume or my introduction is all about, to show you that I've been around the world a few times in terms of understanding what this issue is really truly about from a scientific, economic, and a community standpoint. But that the issue is we are seemingly unable to get the clear facts in front of the decision makers so that good evaluation and comparison of how to proceed on this process takes place. And so we've kind of taken off the boxing gloves a little bit. That's why we're debunking it. Because the issues are very, very complex, but also very straightforward. Why should Lacey care about it is because the proposed project of building an estuary will cost the community about $300 million. And our approach, in my opinion, would be about $10 million, but we put in $40 million. We're trying to pad our account so we can get it all taken care of completely for 20 years type of thing. So we're talking about a huge economic impact issue for the county, which you guys are all taxpayers of. Because they say, well, we'll get federal grants. Well, who pays for the federal grant money? Well, even with federal grants, if you have 65% federal grants, that means 35% is local money. 35% times $300 million is still $100 million worth of local money. So that is why this is important to the Lacey leadership as well as it is the entire Thurston County leadership. So with that, I'm going to go through and hit the high points, just the high points only, about why this is an important issue. If I can figure out, there we go. Okay, so everything boils down to really there's 2 options. All the other kind of smoke screen and background. It's either take the dam out or leave the dam in. This is a dam right there between Capitol Lake and Bud Inlet. Most of you don't even notice the dam there, but it's a short dam there at that location. If you go down and watch the salmon come into the lake, that you're standing basically on top of the dam. So essentially that's the differences. Retain the dam and all the benefits that come with what's there. This was built a little over 50 years ago. Those are the benefits. Or take the dam out and incur the wrath of Mother Nature. And the wrath of Mother Nature will be mudflats. People say, well, it's going to be like the Estuary Delta. That's not true. So we'll continue on. Here's the difference of what it's going to look like. When they lowered the dam, lowered the water in Capitol Lake, that's where we capture the picture of the Capitol in the background with the mudflats. The mudflats will be there 75% of the time in the daylight hours from May to September, the time when families would most likely be down there around Capitol Lake, that might want to kayak on Capitol Lake, might want to do something in Capitol Lake. 75% of the time, you're going to see the mudflats, not the lake. If you listen to the clamp data and some of the state data, they talk about it'll be 75% will be water covered. It'll be reflection pond. Midnight, it doesn't reflect very well. So some of you know Dr. Dave Milne. Dave Milne was a 30-year professor out of Evergreen State College. He's written a manual, educational manual on the estuary type environment, the marine type environment. All of his classroom time in the field was spent essentially in Bud Inlet, Eld Inlet, and the lower Puget Sound. We had asked him to be one of our advisors. He said, yeah, I'll try to be one of your advisors. He never really got involved until people started writing letters to the editor, and he began to see, he said, that's not right, that's not right, that's not correct, that's not right. So he finally got engaged with us, and he took it on. His wife right now is in late stages of Alzheimer's at Panorama City. So in spite of his personal family health issues, he's still writing our technical documents and reviews as a retired professor. Oscar Sewell and others are reviewing those, and so these are actually peer-reviewed documents. We have two 50-page documents that he has written about the science and the whole background. It's on our website. He's just released a week ago a 13-page article on the mud snail. He said the mud snails are not a problem. Yes, they're an issue. They need to be managed, but they are not a crisis, not a problem. Yet what you hear what comes out of the state process is that it's a crisis that hit Capitol Lake. There's 30 locations in western Washington that we found mud snails in, including Lake Washington. Capitol Lake is the only one that is quarantined. Why? It's a political issue. And he went in and compared with data results that came out of Thurston County Health Department, where they did the monitoring for the last 14 years. And he compared that data with water quality in Long Lake, Black Lake, and essentially what he has concluded that water quality itself is one of the healthiest is Capitol Lake. The water has been clean enough and good enough to swim in for the last 14 years. It's the algae that's floating on the top that you see what makes it look like it's sick or ugly. So people say, well, it's cesspool, it's ugly, it's sick. That is absolutely not true, not from a water quality standpoint. It's because it's not been maintained for 30 years by the state. So, some of the facts. A new tidal mudflat or an estuary would not look like the Nisqually Delta. I've already touched that. It's true, it will not look like the Nisqually Delta. The Nisqually Delta, the water comes down in the Nisqually River, hits the Puget Sound, and the water moves the sediment on away. And so you don't have a buildup of sediment. In Capitol Lake and Bud Inlet, the it's a tidal mudflat. It comes back and forth like this. Hits like that, the sediment drops out. 35,000 cubic yards a year comes down to Deschutes River and it will drop out. Right now, or it has been dropping in Capitol Lake. Capitol Lake is an ideal sediment trap. You take the dam out, it's going to drop right on the port. So very likely the port would not be able to keep up with the mud dredging process. Our marina, we own Fiddlehead Marina, would definitely be out of business. We couldn't afford to keep up with the dredging process. And I've already touched on the fact that the mud issue, we happen to live by Priest Point Park. I drive by East Bay Drive every day, and all summer long, you see the mud flat around Swantown. That's what Capitol Lake would look like. Ironically, if you spend the $300 million to take the dam out, because this is what the Squaxin tribe is trying to say, what ecology keeps trying to say, some other people try to say, is that, well, we got to take the dam out to make the water quality better. According to Dr. Milne's work, the water quality actually will be worse. And the reason for that is this. Capitol Lake is set up in a way that's a natural treatment process. And our studies will show all of that. I won't go into the detail, but basically the natural treatment process of Capitol Lake removes a lot of these the contaminants that come down the Deschutes River from the upper watershed. It's not the lake that's created the contaminants. The contaminants are coming out of the watershed, failing septic tank, farm runoff, road runoff, forestry runoff. So basically that's coming out of the upper watershed into the lake, and it creates the nutrient process. And essentially it's removing more nitrogen than the lot $50 million nitrogen removal facility is. The pro-estuary folks would talk about a restored estuary. It won't be a restored estuary. It'll be a partially small part of it restored as an estuary if you spend $300 million they're talking about. And it's not the least expensive option for the future of Capitol Lake. The proposed removal of Fifth Avenue Dam and other changes required would cost at least $300 million plus more, because what would happen is the sediment would spread all over the lower part of the Butt Inlet, and then to dredge that is very expensive because of it's spread out. It's got the dioxin from the industrial contaminants on the Port Peninsula, whereas in Capitol Lake, the sediment that's there is clean. It's some of the best dirt in Thurston County. It can be recycled and be reused for lawns and for other beneficial uses. Ecology is using 15-year-old data to predict the water quality violations in Capitol Lake and Butt Inlet. This is true. Their model was based on 15-year-old data. They didn't include any of that 14 years of data that we talked about in terms of the county health department. There is no sampling going on to validate the models that they're doing. They would talk about a peer-reviewed model. The design of the model was peer-reviewed. Whether or not the model that was built and then is used now to predict failures, that has not been peer-reviewed. In other words, they haven't continued the sampling to compare, is their model as it's designed predicting what the actual water quality now is occurring? The answer is no, it has not. This is what Dr. Milne in his papers showed and proved. And we could go into a lot of details on that as well. Prior to our discovery of the 14 years of data that the county had been collecting, there are 3 federal standards being violated. One on dissolved oxygen, bacteriological contamination, and phosphorus, according to the federal standard for Capitol Lake. We brought forward the county data, showed this to ecology, showed it to the state, and said, look, their data says there is no bacteriological contamination anymore. It's been cleaned up. The dissolved oxygen is actually supersaturated because of the Tumwater Falls. There is no dissolved oxygen problem. Yes, there's a phosphorus problem, but that's coming from the upper watershed into the lake. We think you should change that. They said, well, they only collected samples 10 months out of the year. They didn't do it for the whole 12 months of the year, therefore we're not going to change it. It's that kind of dynamic that we've had to wrestle with, to deal with. So the issue is ecology is using old data. Capitol Lake is beneficial for small salmon during migration, similar to the Lake Washington system. This is true. Again, the Squaxin tribe and the ecology and some other folks will say it's harming the fish. The Lake Washington through the Lake Union and through the canal on up into Lake Washington itself is the same type of a system that we would have, or we do have here right now. There is no natural salmon in the Deschutes River. The waterfalls has always blocked the migration of the salmon. The salmon that are there now came after the dam was built and the fish ladder around Tumwater Falls was installed. So much of the statements of why we need an estuary by the pro-estuary folks is just absolutely not correct and not true. Again, we've documented all this, and it's all in writing, it's all on our website. With a partially restored tidal estuary, there will be very little water recreation available in the lake basin for the community. This is true. Simply put, as I said earlier, during the summer months, 75% of the time, during daylight hours, it will be mudflats. And then the velocity of the water going through the 500-foot opening by where the dam is right now, and that's what they're proposing, the 500-foot opening. The velocity of that water will be higher than the Deschutes or the Deception Pass and the Tacoma Narrows area. Any of you that are boaters and you've gone through those areas during the running of the tide, you know what kind of velocity you're having to deal with. That's what will be going through there twice a day in addition to the mudflats. So only the most experienced whitewater rafters will be out there in that water. It won't be a family place. You cannot be in the water during that period of time. Now John would love that because he's a whitewater rafter. And so a few other people, but the families won't because it would be unsafe. If a partially restored restoration of the estuary is selected, Olympia will most likely lose its boating waterfront. This is true. Capital Lake provides the most efficient and cost-effective sediment management, flood protection, and seawater rise protection for the waterfront. Without the dam, dredging will be required every 5 years in Bud Inlet to retain the boating waterfront. This is the state's own studies that say that. But the state studies say that you take the dam out, the sediment comes down to the Chutes River, you'll have 6 feet of mud accumulating every 10 years. And if you have an increase in Capital Lake, you can just use smaller boats. If you have an increase in the port turn basin or at my marina, our boats won't be able to come and go with that kind of stuff. So that would require us to do the dredging on an ongoing basis forever. And economically, it would wipe us out. What we're proposing, as some of you may know if you're tracking this at all, is this DES just completed a report to the legislature. It's restacking the old studies that they had before from Plant. There's a whole bunch of political reasons why this took place. If you want to know about it, I'll fill you in later, not now in the process, but there is a way forward. First of all, they're proposing a $5.2 million EIS over the next at minimum 3 years. So another delay of another 3 years. Delay is the name of the game on the part of the pro estuary folks. So $5.2 million, yes, we need an EIS. We need a decision from the community, but it needs to be a community decision, not a tribal decision, not a estuary type decision. It needs to be a decision on the pros and cons, what's best for the community as a whole. I'm pretty biased about what I believe the best solution is, but it needs to be a community open, objective decision process, not a small group decision. What needs to happen out of that $5.2 million, there should be a pre-dredge of about 25% in the North Basin. All the alternatives will require that anyway, so it's not wasted money. It would clean up the sediment during a period of time while they go through this 3+ years of EIS. Secondly, we are asking the port and the county to work with us in the state to start sampling from the Pioneer Park area to Priest Point Park area. Get real field data. Get rid of the 15-year-old data. Put in real data and find it so we know what the facts are, not what some group that's trying to promote a particular agenda believes it might be. That sampling needs to be done. It's not that expensive. It just needs to be done by a government entity so that it's accepted as legitimate and valid. And then thirdly, we do need to continue the EIS process. We need a NEPA process. Why we need a NEPA process, which is tied to the Corps of Engineers dredging permit process, is NEPA requires the tribes to be at the table and follow the same rules that I follow. And by that process, you have to base your decisions on good science and good facts. A managed lake can be implemented in phases. The restored estuary cannot. Once you make a decision to take the dam out, it's no turning back. It's $300 million investment, and doing it the way we propose to do it, you can do it in $5 million increments over as required on a time basis. A managed lake with swimming and boating in the North Basin can be in place in 2 years from the issuance of a permit. They don't want us to give it to permit because once that pre-dredging gets done, then basically people can understand the benefits of what the lake's all about. This is a conceptual view. We believe we ought to be looking at the entire urban watershed, and Mike Marone's son helped us develop this. It's a good pictorial. What we're really focusing on right now is how do we develop the whole urban watershed from Priest Point Park to Pioneer Park for the benefit of the entire community. So there's our website. It's www.savecapitallake.org. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you. Bruce.
Well, a good example of that debris that washes down. Want to see it in action, just go down there and look at the White Salmon River. When they took out that dam up above, the amount of material that came out of there was incredible. And it completely plugged up that lower end.
The state actually, state's own studies say they have to dredge 485,000 cubic yards before they take the dam out, because otherwise that mud will just plug up the port and plug up the whole lower end of Bud Inlet, and it'll wipe out the boating waterfront. That's their own studies say that. Yes?
This has been going on for 14 years. What can we do, or what can anyone do to move it off dead center?
The EIS is one step. Our concern is that there are certain people in putting together the new state report they were maneuvering data. Our data was kept completely out, our proposed approach was kept completely out of the early part of the report, buried in the background. So there's some clear maneuvering that's going on. What you can do is work with the port commissioners, and you have one sit in the back of the room. He's been very supportive. The port's been very supportive, and with the 3 county commissioners that we have now, those are the 2 key groups, 2 local government entities who have the ability to help shape this process. We tried for 7 years to get the City of Olympia City Council to step up and provide leadership. We did not make it happen. Could not make it happen. Prior county commissions, we could not make it happen because of the makeup of the county commission. So in our opinion, the key is the port commissioners and the county commissioners and your state legislators. Now, prior to this last election, all our local legislators were supportive of the lake. Karen Frazier helped us with it. Sam Hunt helped us with it. Recto helped us with it. Basically, they helped us with it, but it's a dynamic of government and the tribal type relationships and sovereign nation issues that keeps getting away. People will say that the tribes have veto power over what happens. The answer to them, no, they do not. They can frustrate it, they can object to it, but they can't stop it if we can get going with a NEPA process. So that's where you can help. Get behind your elected officials, are the ones that got to provide the leadership. We've done everything we can from a citizen's perspective. Other questions?
Bob, what's being done on the upper watershed to control sediment and nutrient input into the system?
There's what they call a TMDLA, TMDL, total maximum daily load process. The study Ecology has been doing, but again, Ecology had in the past been an advocate for taking the dam out. We met with the director of Ecology, said you cannot be an advocate. You can be a regulator and a scientist, but you cannot be an advocate because it should be a citizen decision-making process. But they are doing the studies in the upper watershed on land use practices, cleaning up the road runoff, that kind of stuff. We are supporting everything they're doing in the upper watershed. And so it's basically good land use practice in the upper watershed. That would help, but it's a natural sediment movement that occurs that you're not going to eliminate. You're always going to have probably 30,000 or more, 1,000 cubic yards of sediment coming down that river, regardless, no matter what they do in the upper watershed.
Yeah, Bob, it's been, what, 30 years since the lake's been dredged?
85.
Yeah. And that was a routine process before, in fact, they even designed at the south end of the lake a way to dewater that material. You just said that no matter what the solution is, estuary or lake, you have to dredge the lake.
Right.
So it would seem to me a major focus should be with our legislature, our legislative contacts, is to get the money appropriated to dredge the lake now. Right,
there's exactly, I agree with you. The $5.2 million actually would be enough to do, you probably don't know, lost the name all of a sudden, Gary Larson. He used to work for DES or GGA and so forth. He helped us do the early design of our proposal. Basically, the state owns 6 acres out west of the lake right now. Back there, they use it for storage. We could set up a hydraulic dredging system that would routinely sample or dredge out some dirt out of the North Basin. That's where the 25% comes from, at a very low cost. Once it's dewatered, it can be hauled away by trucks, rail, or we could barge it away. So we have an inexpensive solution around what you talked about. So what we're saying is do that inexpensive pre-dredge solution out of that $5.2 million. Get the $5.2 million to initiate the EIS, but also pre-dredge, also do the water quality sampling. Now we will have real facts, real data in which to guide the development of the final design, whatever the community wants in that final design. If they want to take the dam out, then they can do that. But if you look at the cost and the implications of it, it's huge. Other questions?
I'm going to give you a loaded one. Why, in your opinion, hasn't the state brought in independent third-party experts to identify what the facts truly are?
Right. As I mentioned, Senator Frazier helped us through this process, and Karen's a very heavily strong environmental person, and so we weren't sure that she was going to support where we were going with this, but she did. She supported very carefully, worked it through several years of effort and process. She helped bring in, fund bringing in the Bill Ruckelshaus Center, which is an independent, objective, problem-solving type group. They came in, they did a whole bunch of survey or interviews, brought in WSU and UW professional people, and came out with a way forward. And the way forward essentially was to bring in, as Dennis just asked the question, why not bring in a third party to evaluate the differences between what we're saying and what the state people are saying. And that's what they recommended. Bring in a third party objective experts so and get rid of this dispute on terms of which science is best, number one. And then basically carry forward an EIS process. They also then asked the question, would we, being the Ruckelshaus Center, be an acceptable third party to steer this, just keep it going forward? And the answer was, from our standpoint, is absolutely. We want a third party to do that. Certain groups of the pro-estuary said, no, we don't want you here. And so they would not go where they were not wanted. And partly it's because the group that's been pushing the efforts has basically had an agenda, and the agenda doesn't include the factual information. And so we still believe the Ruckelshaus approach is the valid approach, and it's independent.
Last question, Jim.
Approximately how long do you expect it will take to do that dredge? And where is the material going to go?
Okay, the Olympia Yacht Club did a dredge last spring around the marina, around the yacht basin. Spent over $1 million doing that process. It took them a year and a half to 2 years to get through the permitting process because of tribe objections and so forth, and it took them a month to do the work. Same thing here. The issue is we have to get that Corps of Engineers permit, which would probably take a year and a half, 2 years, just because of the people that object. This is that hydraulic dredge that I talked about. There's a place to put a simple, inexpensive hydraulic dredge to dredge the material to this dry dewatering basin west of the lake, dry it out, and truck it away for gardening and for other purposes. So it would probably be about a 3-year time frame from start to finish if that was their decision to do that. But we can't get people to take that step.
Bob, thank you. Thanks very much, and I know you've obviously been very involved in this project for a number of years, so thanks for your commitment to the community on that. As is our tradition, we donate a book in your name to the South Sound Reading Foundation, and as occasionally happens, I got lucky with a title, A River Lost. So can you take that and sign it? I will. Donate it on your behalf.